Thank you very much. So the Lord Mayor has already, I think, touched on many of the things that are important for us to consider over the next hour or so. The benefits for business in terms of being more environmentally friendly and, of course, sustainable are really, really important, and that's why everybody's in this room today. And it's also about how do we learn from each other and share best practice. So I want to just expand on some of the things that the Lord Mayor has touched on and try and populate with some examples for you, things that are going on. I want to start by just reminding us, I guess, that there are many, many different drivers for businesses in terms of engaging with sustainable approaches to what they do, both in terms of environment, but also in terms of some of the social impacts. So whether they're financial, whether they are ethical and moral, or perhaps even social, or maybe perhaps linked to productivity and employer engagement, all of those drivers are important in terms of thinking about how do we engage with really going green? How do we really create sustainable environments? The evidence is quite clear, so my challenge to business really is around, well, why wouldn't we be doing this? Clearly, it's good for business, it's good for the planet, it's good for society. The challenge for business is how do we ensure we lead on this particular agenda and make a contribution that goes way beyond our own organisations. So let's have a look at some of the facts that perhaps are not necessarily ones that we think about on a daily basis. We know that the demand for energy and materials and resources is expected to rise by 170% of the planet's generation capacity by 2040. This is from the CBI work. We know that climate change poses a physical threat to 207 of the world's largest cities, affecting 50% of the world's population and putting 80% of the global GDP at risk. These are quite startling facts. We also know that we've been facing supply problems for some indigenous minerals in recent years. For example, with reserves of sand, believe this, sand and gravel in England declining by 29% between 1995 and 2005. The UK's construction industry, and just think about the amount of construction we are about to engage in, have known the difficulties that they face, and therefore they've been engaging in using recycling and reusing materials for many, many years. So businesses are now operating within a complex environment where there is growing demand for scarce resources, where we're seeing rapid population growth, volatility of the supply of materials and energy prices, and climatic uncertainty with extreme weather events, many of them seen in the southwest. It's not surprising, then, that a report for the UN showed that 93% of the world's top chief executives see sustainability as important to their company's future and success. Furthermore, a snapshot of British companies, the boardrooms of 500 senior executives, when questioned, said that they intended to engage in creating more sustainable futures for their organisations. Indeed, companies more and more have been seeing sustainability as a commercial imperative, not simply a marginal exercise. Why is that? Well, they're looking at potential increases in market share, customers notice what companies are doing, boosting profits, of course, making operations more efficient and more effective, and importantly, creating healthy environments for their employees. Motivating employees and attracting new talent are all some of the drivers that companies have cited as why they're engaging in going green. And of course, reducing unnecessary waste. How many of us in this room have talked about the paperless office and still haven't yet quite managed it? Certainly my organisation hasn't. So some examples of things that are going on across the southwest: converting food waste from lunchtime cafeterias into methane to supply the building with energy. Many of our supermarkets encouraging the reduction of packaging to be more efficient. Why? Because that reduces waste and recycling requirements. Measures at Jaguar Land Rover, new engine manufacturing centre in Wolverhampton, include the UK's largest roof-mounted solar array, capable of meeting up to 30% of the electricity demand. And when they add LED lighting that also reduced energy consumption by 70%, saving more than 1,000 tonnes of CO2 a year and cutting the annual cost by more than £140,000. Recycling metal for Rolls-Royce generated 20,000 megawatts of energy each year, enough to power 1.8 million homes for a day. These are significant numbers. If we bring it more locally, what are we doing in my own institution? Well, we've been working with the Chartered Institute for Purchasing and Supply at the university, and we've created a groundbreaking Supplier Sustainable Procurement Index. Bit of a mouthful. What does that mean? It means that we are working with our supply chain to ensure that we measure them. They obtain a score in terms of their social, economic and environmental sustainability credentials. Following a pilot study in 2013, we now have over 100 participating buying organisations and over 750 registered suppliers. And this is expanding now, and we're launching it in Ireland as well as the USA and Australia early in 2015. I know from the work that I do with the CBI and Business West, there is a wealth of good practice across the Southwest. There is a huge amount of work going on in our own city region. Businesses in our city region are forging way ahead of what the government is requiring us to do. And I think it's absolutely critical that we continue to share the best practice that we observe in our city region and share it beyond our city region. CBI has been pushing for many, many years. Green and growth absolutely go hand in hand. Sustainability is not just an ideal to aspire to. There is a strong economic argument that moving to a low-carbon economy can drive significant business investment and create many new jobs across the country, not least in our part of the world. CBI analysis published last year indicates that over a third of the UK's economic growth in 2011-12 is likely to have come from green businesses. We also know that nationally, the carbon sector is growing consistently at 4.5% per annum, despite the economic downturn. So there's good reason for us to be engaging in going green. The challenges, of course, are not just about the economic futures that we face. The challenges are also behavioural, human challenges. I know that my children, for example, I've got 5 children ranging from 25 down to 11. Their approach to sustainability and the environment is very different from how I was taught at school. So there are future generations that are coming through that are sensitised to the need to consider the environment and the planet. They're the ones that moan at me when I get it wrong in terms of recycling bins. They're the ones that are challenging me to do better, to not get in the car, to go onto a bike. And boy, do I need it. So those future generations are pressing us to make change now. We have a leadership responsibility as businesses to do our bit, not just within our organisations, but beyond our organisations, to consider how we work with local communities, to create an impact which is truly sustainable, and one when future generations look back, they say, we did a good job. Thank you very much.